Hello everyone, this is Al Spectra, here to bring you a comprehensive guide on the new arma mechanic. As everyone know, you can obtain arma through purchasing them in the currency shop. And as of right now, each arma costs $20, and there is currently no way to farm them. And I hope that in the near future, they will allow ways to farm armaments for past season heroes because they are quite important in my opinion. And what they really do is that when you equip an armament, they transfer the three main hero skills that the armament come from to the designated hero. So for example here, I've equipped Kellerman with Michael's armament. And as you can see, Kellerman's skills are now Michael's skills. And the only skill that does not transfer is the awakening skill. Through various tests and observations, although this has not been absolutely confirmed, there is a very strong likelihood that the awakening skill is not transferred. Although, while the awakening skill is not transferred, the hero itself can still use their awakening skill that was not replaced. Now, the mechanics around this are not well known yet, but just to give an example, in the case of Kellerman, there appears to be, he still appears to have the ability to disarm the opponents while equipping Michael's armament. So now I want to talk about, I would say, three main areas where armaments are really powerful. One of which is PvE, particularly referring to meritorious deeds, as well as, in this case, the Trial of Holy Flame. Now, an interesting thing about Meritorious and Trial of Holy Flame, they're kind of the same thing. But how it works between different season heroes is that each season's hero has their own multiplier. And the reason why they did that was that when Season 5 heroes first launched, they actually did worse than Season 4 heroes in Meritorious Deeds, in PvE. So in order to make up for that, they actually gave Season 5 heroes a higher multiplier than Season 4, meaning that even though they deal less damage, they will have a higher score. So to give an example, and to demonstrate the first utility of arma, I will first run my Season 5 team in Meritorious Deeds. And I don't have any special armaments equipped on the Season 5 team. After all, equipping armaments on the same hero that it comes from merely gives them a bit of stats, which is nothing special. So you can see I scored 64 billion with my Season 5 hero. Now, if I were to run my Season 4 hero with Season 5 armaments, you will see that my damage will go way down, even though they are using Season 5 skills. Well, I'll just use Lisbeth here for comparison because I don't have a Season 4 hero equipped with Lisbeth's skills. But just to demonstrate here, I did 64 billion damage before, and now I deal 35. And this is not necessarily because they're actually dealing less damage, but rather they just have a lower multiplier. So the first utility of arma is to increase their damage, to increase the heroes with higher multiplier. If you increase their damage, suddenly you will significantly increase your score. So let's demonstrate that here. I will use Kellerman's. So you might ask what heroes actually deal the most damage. And as of current, it is most likely Kellerman's ultimate, Michael's ultimate, Kellerman's ultimate, Morgan's ultimate, and Hanzo's ultimate. So let's equip Kellerman's skills on Michael. Let's equip Morgan's skills on Quinn. And let's equip Hanzo's skill on Lisbeth. So let me remove Hanzo skill real quick. Here on equip. Now I equip Quinn with this. And now I equip Lisbeth with Hanzo's skill. So now suddenly, Season 5 heroes are using Season 4 and Season 3 skills. But what will happen is that they will do a massive amount of damage. And because they're running Season 5 multiplier, let's just see what the result is. So I dealt 64 billion damage with my Season 4 team. Now that I switched armas, I deal 77.7 billion damage. And there is another trick that you can do to further increase your damage. And that is just to not use that much infantry. So increase your cavalry, archer, and this probably only works for Season 5. I'm not too sure how well it works for other seasons. But let's try this unit composition. And this is just an easy way to get some damage value in PvE by using armaments. Now let's move on to the next utility of armaments, which I think is open field PvP. Since we don't have any ongoing battles, I cannot demonstrate this, but I can definitely talk a little bit about it. And whereas before, powerful players, they are able to send out, they typically send out their Season 5 or strongest team. Let me show here. So they will send out their strongest team to attack a player. And this will result in them having minimal losses while dealing maximum damage to the opponent. Now what they can do is they can equip Season 5 armas to their Season 4 and Season 4 armas to their Season 3. And with a little bit of optimization, they can launch 3 very strong attacks consecutively. So low power players are actually in quite a bit of danger because unlike before, where you might be able to tank one strong attack, and the whale needs to bring their first army back before attacking you again. Now they can launch 3 attacks against you. And no matter what you do, if you cannot defend against all 3, or even if you do, it will result in much greater losses for you. So this is point number 1. Not only can the whales, the powerful players, launch 1 strong attack, now they can launch 3 or even more. And the other side of it is defense. So you can kind of mask a weak team with a strong team. So for example, I have very good equipment on my Season 5 hero. But what if people are scared of my Season 5 team? Suddenly, I'm just going to run my Season 1 team. But my Season 1 team is going to have the best gear. And they are going to be running Michael's skills. So let's say I equip this skill. I equipped Sword of Judgment on my El Cid. Now there's kind of a second layer where it's hard to tell exactly how strong the team is attacking you is. So here, my El Cid is suddenly very, very scary. He has the gear behind his stats. And although his base stats are very low, we can see only 147%. That is not a big deal when you have a lot of stats. So in the context of Battle of Disorder especially, you can, once your main teams are out of stamina, you can just transfer their armaments to weaker heroes. Not only armaments, but also equipment. Remember, equipments are very strong now, especially with Fable gear. They give 200% stats, which is very impactful. You transfer the armament, you transfer the equipment, and suddenly you will have very strong non-Season 5 teams. You can fight pretty much forever. And mechanically, in terms of defense, it's actually kind of scary to attack players now, especially in server versus server, where you lose like 70% of the troops you attack with. Imagine if you see your opponent defending with purple heroes, but their purple heroes have the best armaments. Suddenly, you will be attacking straight into a Season 5 team, a fake Season 5 team, but still very strong, and you will lose overwhelmingly. So that's the second area where armaments, I believe, are really impactful and can lead to some very interesting PvP dynamics. And the third, and potentially the most important part, reward-wise, is the arenas. And the reason why I bring the arenas up is because a lot of our rewards actually come from the arenas. You can see colossal clamps, legendary shards. You need to meet a certain rank requirements in order to buy those rewards. And not only for legends, but also for Apex. Both getting top ranks in both are essential. And for whales, it's really important because someone with arma will have significant advantage over someone without arma. So I want to take this chance to provide an example of a team running arma versus a team without arma. So here you can see we have BGF on the left versus Doom Knight on the right. Now we know that BGF has slightly lower stats, although not by much. But here you can see in the second team, although not optimal in my opinion, BGF is still running the S5 arma setup on his S4 heroes. Whereas Doom Knight, he's not running any arma. So let's see what's going on here. His secondary team, Season 4, was able to wipe out Doom Knight's Season 4 team. And you can see the stats. The stats are so much lower all across the board. But it doesn't matter because it's essentially Season 5 versus Season 4. And he barely lost anything. So this is an example of why arma in arena is so important. Because you equip your Season 4 team with Season 5 arma and your Season 3 team with Season 4 arma. And there's ways to further optimize that as well. For example, in my case, I like to use Hanzo's skill on my Season 4. So instead of using Hanzo directly, I use Charlotte. Charlotte. And this is because Charlotte has slightly better stats than Hanzo. So I like to use Hanzo's arma on Charlotte and run that in my Season 4 team. So this is basically a full-blown Season 5 with Hanzo's skill. And you will always want to use the best titanos on your best team because I can provide just a bonus example of cases where people don't necessarily use the optimal titanos on their strongest team and they kind of lose out because of that. So here's a very good example. You can see that in the case of Odin versus Windstrider, Odin just loses out completely. Because Windstrider is able to damage the backline archers, making them hit weaker and weaker every time Windstrider attacks. And you can see the result here. The right team lost pretty badly. And here, although he ran pretty good armaments, like this is basically the Season 5 setup, but you can see the Titanos here is far from ideal. If this was Windstrider, I guarantee you this team would have won. And for some reason, Windstrider is stuck with a very, very throwaway team here. And so he is getting pretty much zero use out of his Windstrider. Whereas if his Windstrider was here in his first team, he might have not even lost his first battle. Here is probably another example that I saw. Here is an example of poor usage of armaments. And you can see here that he used Season 4 Kellerman's armament on his Michael, which makes his Michael way weaker than if he didn't use the armament. And fortunately for him, the only reason why he won was because he ran Windstrider instead of Odin. And is there a troop tier difference? So this is tier Glorious 8. So Glorious 8 versus Glorious 8, there wasn't much troop tier difference. So this guy messed up, but still came out winning because he ran Windstrider. So yeah, it's pretty bad, but it's not completely useless because Kellerman's skill does prevent your opposing side from dealing normal, from dishing out normal attacks. So you can see here, Rander was not able to deal much normal damage as opposed to the guy on the left. But if Rander had Windstrider, then the Windstrider would have helped him attack or damage the backline archer, as opposed to Odin, which really does not do much. So that is essentially how armaments work. In the future, I really hope that they will provide some way for lower spenders, especially ones who cannot afford to spend $20 on every arma, a way to basically farm them. And another additional interesting thing to point out is that when new season heroes come out, will their armaments come out immediately? Because if it does, then you can essentially just buy the armament, raise the new season hero to like 4-star, max their skill, and equip that armament to any set of heroes, and you'll essentially have a maxed season 16, because all that really matters is the skills. So in my opinion, I don't think the armament is going to come out right as the new season's hero come out, but it will always be interesting to see how it really works out. So thanks everyone for listening. That's all I have to say for armaments. Hope this guide was able to help some of you.